When I say the words zombie video game, what comes to mind? Maybe you thought of a game where you face thousands of the undead horde with either a samurai sword, an assault rifle, or a good old parkour kick to the face. Or perhaps you were thinking of the games that have more of a focus on story and characters over addictive gameplay. But I bet you were also thinking, ugh, zombie games are so boring. While some zombie games are a ton of fun or emotionally gripping, you can't help but deny that a lot of them are the same. You play as a human survivor and have to scavenge items to survive whilst also fending off the undead. Tell me that that does not sound like every single zombie game. So if you're like me and are just dying for something new instead of yet another game where you play as a human slaughtering a bunch of zombies, then I might have something for you. A game where you play as a zombie slaughtering humans. Let me introduce you to Stubbs the Zombie, a title that is described as a reverse horror game. The game puts players in the shoes of the titular character, a lovable, decaying corpse who has obtained the magic artifact known as the Unlimited Siggy.
You got a fucking Siggy?
After rising from the grave one sunny morning, he aims to track down those who have wronged him and recover what was once his. Players will control Stubbs from a third-person perspective and can use a variety of attacks to dispatch enemies. There's the basic melee attack which can be used to stun enemies or outright kill them, but it's the other abilities that are the most effective. You'll get 4 different abilities that will be unlocked as you progress through the game, each of them with their own benefits to help you in combat. For example, you may get swarmed by multiple enemies with guns and struggle to take them all out. The solution? Just let out a big old stinky fart and now they're stunned. Easy pickings. What about those enemies really far away from you? You don't want to risk going over there and getting killed, do you? Not to worry, this time you've got 2 options. Either throw your explosive guts and blow them up, or yeet your hand to possess some poor unfortunate soul and have him betray his teammates. And if you're really hardcore, you can practice your Wii bowling skills by rolling your head over to the enemies and blowing them up with a super duper powerful explosion. God, talk about mind-blowing. Yep, I'm already on it, don't you worry at all. Now these abilities are not unlimited, and they have to be recharged by the player. How, I hear you ask? Why, eating yummy scrummy brains, of course. Every single human NPC can have their brains slurped out of their skull by Stubbs. You can either accomplish this by stunning them with one of your attacks, or be sneaky and ambush them from behind for an insta-kill. Some enemies will need to be hit quite a few times to stun them, but once they're ready, you just press triangle and then scran their delicious brain to get those abilities recharged. Some abilities like the Possessed Hand will be available after eating just 1 brain, but if you want to use the more powerful abilities again, it's going to take a lot more brains before you can use them. But that's not the only thing that happens when you eat a brain. You also turn each NPC you eat into a zombie themselves. These zombies attack enemies for you and can even convert them to join the horde. Before you know it, you've amassed your own undead squad that you can get to follow you and assist you in a fight. This is where Stubbs' core gameplay loop comes into play. Players will go from section to section, fighting a whole bunch of enemies. Civilians, police officers, hillbillies, the army, a barbershop quartet, and scientists with the most stupidly overpowered laser guns I have ever seen in a game. You use your abilities, melee attacks, and big chompers to amass a zombie horde, and then charge into a room to take out more enemies. Rinse repeat for about 6 hours, boom, you're done. Honestly, I really like it. It's a decent gameplay loop, and it offers a lot of fun to be had going around the city causing absolute chaos. And now it's time to point out the flaws. Okay, for starters, your melee attack feels weak as fuck. Every time I use this melee, the feedback was extremely unsatisfying. Not to mention that it has this stiff feeling to it that I think stems from how Stubbs feels to control. The best way I could describe Stubbs' movement is that it feels like you're dragging him along with you. Yes, I know he's a walking corpse and he has gammy legs, but it's not satisfying to play with, and it feels like the game is working against you. The same could be said for the zombies too. When their programming works and they help you against the enemies, they're really helpful. However, most of the time, they don't follow you no matter how many times you whistle at them. In addition to that, they'll sometimes block your path as you're trying to escape the enemies, but there's no way past them, you get trapped, uh-oh, now you're dead and you have to start again. But the absolute worst part about the melee combat is the way the game telegraphs that an enemy is stunned. When you get into a fight with an enemy, sometimes they will do an animation that looks like they are ready to be eaten. Your brain will see this and go straight to pressing triangle, not realizing that the prompt hasn't even appeared yet. Or when the enemy is actually stunned, you'll think that that's just another animation that they're doing and you can't eat them yet. So you carry on and then, oh no, they're now dead and you can't eat their brains to recharge your abilities. Okay then. Then finally, the saving system. It's very 50-50. Saving is frequent some of the time and is placed in reasonable areas that you would assume it would be in. However, other times you could go for long stretches of the game before it saves, meaning you're always on edge during combat, as one wrong move and the game can set you back quite a fair bit. Oh, now you fucking save? The best thing for you to do is to hang back, wait until the game saves, and then move on. Tedious, I know, but it beats throwing your PlayStation out of the window. Now all these flaws with the game design are shown off better if you play on the game's harder difficulty, which is what I did. Because I'm a Chad gamer. A number of times I would find myself against a horde of enemies and no abilities to use. Then, one of them would try and rush me. I'd start wailing on him, desperate for a brain to eat. But I get confused with his animations and instead end up killing him, putting me all the way back at square one. Next thing you know, the rest of the enemies swarm me and now I'm dead and will have to restart all over again. There's evident flaws in the game design without a shadow of a doubt, and if you want the best experience without the hassle of these problems, I'd choose normal difficulty. Or if you've got an extra person that can make your playthrough easier, buddy up in couch co-op with local split screen.
They're not dead, everybody!
Now you've got a lot of destructive tools at your disposal, so we're going to need a big sandbox to play. Welcome to Punchbowl, a retro futuristic city inspired by late 1950s America, but with hover cars. Woo! The city has elements that are stripped straight from the time period that it's based on, like an old cinema with the names of movies advertised outside, or even the dress sense of its civilians. It screams 1950s America. It's a decent setting and a lot of levels will have you walking through the city streets eating anyone that you come across. That being said, I did find that these levels were the most boring and pale in comparison to some of the more memorable levels. Tell me something. Would you rather walk along the city streets and fight off cops in wide open areas, or storm a dam ran by scientists, piss in their water supply, and then use zombies to break the dam and flood the city? I know which one I want to do. The levels that stand out the most are the ones with the most wackiest settings. In one level, you storm the police station before finding the midget chief and having a dance-off with him. Or how about a level where you hijack this vehicle? Yeah, you can drive in this game. Stubbs can't pick up any weapons, but has a driving license. Yeah, sure, makes sense. And use the vehicle's turret to launch what I'm assuming is poop at the enemy, and watch them flail in the air. Wait a second. I know that animation. Oh. Hang on, who made this game? Oh, I see. Now it all makes sense. There are a lot of memorable levels in Stubbs, and even though the city levels are the weakest of the bunch, I think they do well for the game's pacing. They give you a decent break from the more out there levels, as well as providing a good look into the amount of destruction that you're leaving in your wake. When you first start the game, the city is squeaky clean. It looks bright and pleasant with people walking around going about their day. Now cut to later, and it's an absolute war zone. A dark atmosphere fills the city streets with massive craters and debris everywhere you turn. It's not incredibly deep or philosophical in any way. You're not going to have some Irish fella coming through radio asking if you would kindly stop eating the city. I can't fucking do this. But it does its job showing you how much devastation you've caused during the story. And speaking of the story, I don't really know what to say about it. Okay, so in Stubbs you play as, well, Stubbs. A zombie that rises from the dead in the city of Punchbowl. How was he revived? Coral. After a little tutorial from this busty guide bot that no doubt someone will want to bone, Stubbs retreats to the city's monorail to escape the police. When he arrives at his next stop, he sees a billboard of a woman and sets off to find her, whilst getting revenge on those that killed him. Who is this woman? Why is Stubbs looking for her? Why was he killed? Well, all these questions are answered in the game, but it's really hard to talk about it without going into spoilers. So all I'll say is this, Stubbs' story doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a lot of quirky moments, funny dialogue, and memorable characters with a lot of silly personalities. If you're expecting a deep tale of revenge and how it drives you to commit atrocities in the name of your own personal vendetta, you ain't gonna get it here. Have The Last of Us Part 2 instead. The story is nothing more than a fun, goofy time. And, to be honest, so is the rest of the game. It has its flaws. I mean, every single game I've ever played has a few sprinkled throughout, but its gameplay loop is incredibly satisfying even after eating your 500th brain. I do think that sometimes the gameplay can get a tad frustrating, especially on Insane mode, and if you're not the one who has a lot of patience, then you'll be best going on one of the lower difficulties. For a game that can be completed in just a few hours, Stubbs is a nicely paced game that will provide you with a lot of fun, charm, and laughter as you rip and tear through a lot of people. Putting Stubbs the Zombie on the Gamer-Pinion rating scale, I would give this one a recommend. It's an engaging, hilarious take on the zombie game genre that I honestly wish we saw more of, and it's a shame that Wide Load not only scrapped a sequel but closed their doors in 2014. Hopefully at some point a developer will follow in Stubbs' footsteps and make something similar to this cult classic. If you're in the mood for a unique adventure where you eat a load of brains, rip arms off of people and beat them with it, and create a lovely zombie family, then this game is for you. And if that's not for you, then I don't know, maybe the Walking Dead Destinies will scratch that itch.
So, the park's full of walkers.